Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who
Now.
Edghill must go. Now.
When?
No.
When?
No.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
When?
Now. Now. It's fine, fine. Thank you for school. I like
He has failed the country.
Actually, what do you want to create? Alright, that's a good one. Wrong skills.
Yeah.
But what?
Getting off. You know, stop getting off.
Yeah.
What else?
Edghill must go.
Where is Malaysia? What? Where is the empty? Who wants compensated
Thank you, sir. Sorry. Sit down, clean it up. Thanks, sir. Very good afternoon. Yes. Each other's supporters, here. Of course, we are. What? All right. All right. Edghill must go. When you start? When you start? Yes, Terrence is
Edghill must be held accountable. That's right. Come right in.
Yeah.
And facilitate an investigation. An independent investigation.
yes.
And if liable criminal charge must be
Sample file.
filed against him and all those involved.
All right. Yeah, right here.
For the opposite cycle.
No.
When you must go?
No. Go.
When you must go?
No.
When you must go?
No. Go.
When you must go?
No.
When you must go?
No.
When you must go?
Go.
Go. Now.
Immediately.
Over 3 minutes and misinformation in public can lead to a charge. Edghill gave out misinformation. Will he be charged? He said 300 plus can defend our boat. We fooled him. Oh, that's a, would he be held accountable for misleading them?
You gotta get him on the end. Where is that?
Edghill must be held accountable.
Hang on.
As a nation,
What's after that? Can we take our
hold yourself there, hold yourself there.
wait?
Edghill must be held accountable and go. Now.
Yeah, Bella. Are you ready?
Edghill must go.
Now!
Now.
Now! Who must go? Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who
Now.
Edghill must go. Now.
When?
No.
When?
No.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
When?
No. No.
Hey.
When? Oh, yeah, can't say the same so. You must go. Edghill must go. That's like a right. Right? That's like a right. That's the kind of boys are right. I want to say where? Open up a bit, open up a bit, open up a bit. You gotta, this thing gotta show in my rhyme. When I said, when I said, who must go? Yeah, I said, Edghill.
Correct.
Who must go?
Edghill.
Who must go? Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
When?
No.
When?
No.
When?
No.
When?
No.
You must go.
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go? When? When?
No.
When?
No.
When?
No.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go. No. No.
When?
No.
Okay.
No.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go? Edghill must go. Who must go? Edghill must go. Who must go?
Edghill must go. No.
And then,
Come on. Rest in place. Rest in place.
the crowd gotta say Edghill and then down.
Tell them direct by master. HGP, direct by master. That's a problem.
And the team will figure out the team.
Yeah, watch your drone. The government don't like drones.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
All right.
He's the murderer.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
No, Edghill and then down.
Good, all right.
No, we dealing with the two collapses first. Don't let me confuse the state.
Jagabats.
Right next to the
Oh, come on, let's go.
Put the mic close to your mouth. Let's go. Let's go.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
Who must go?
Edghill and down. Edghill and down. Edghill and down.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
When?
No.
When?
No.
When?
No.
I said, who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill must go.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
When?
No.
When?
No.
I said, who must go? Who must go?
Edghill and down.
Edghill
and down.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
When?
No.
When?
No.
Who must go?
Edghill and down.
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 When?
No.
When?
No.
When?
No.
I said, who must go?
Edghill and down.
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 Who must go?
Edghill and down. No.
When?
No.
I said, who must go?
Edghill and down.
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 Who must go?
Edghill and down. No.
When?
No.
When?
No.
Who
Edghill and down.
must go?
Edghill and down.
Who 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 must go?
Edghill and down.
When?
No.
When?
No.
I said, who must go?
Edghill and down.
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 Who must go?
Edghill and down. No.
When?
No.
When?
No.
I said, who must go?
Edghill and down.
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 Who must go?
The murderers.
Who must go?
The murderers.
When?
No.
When?
No!
When?
No!
I said, who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
The Jacobins
Who
down!
must go?
The murderers down!
Who must go?
Edghill in
Who
down!
must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
When?
No!
When?
No!
When?
No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go? Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down! No!
When?
No! No! No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down! 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 No! No! No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
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 Who must go?
Edghill in down! Marxist! No! 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 No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
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 Who must go?
Edghill in down! No!
I swear!
No!
I swear!
No!
I said, who must go?
Edghill in down!
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 When?
No! No!
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 Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Axman!
No!
Axman!
No!
Axman!
No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
When?
No!
When?
No!
When?
No! Edghill in down!
Go!
Edghill in down!
Must go!
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
When?
No!
When?
No!
When?
No! No!
When?
No! No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
When they must go?
No! No!
When they must go?
No! No!
When they should go?
No! No!
When they should go?
No! No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
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 When?
No!
When?
No!
When?
No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
And I don't check about
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
When?
No! No!
When?
No!
When?
No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
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 When?
No!
When?
No!
When?
No!
When?
No!
When?
No!
When?
No! No!
No!
No!
When?
No! No!
When?
No! No!
Who must go?
Edghill in down!
Who must go?
Edghill and Indar. Edghill and Indar. Edghill and Indar.
Who must go?
Edghill and Indar.
Who must go?
Edghill and Indar.
Where?
Now.
Say where?
Now.
Say where?
Now. Every man will have 200 Edghill and Indar.
Who must go?
Edghill and Indar.
Where?
Now.
All right, folks, so we're on the periphery of the Artichong Conference Center. As you see, this protest happening behind us on the occasion of the fifth sitting of National Assembly. Of course, you know, this concerns the conduct of the administration leading up to the horrific capsizing of the ferry, and of course, the conduct of the administrations during. We believe that the administration should relieve Minister of Public Works, in particular, one Edghill of that portfolio, and of course the Minister also Deodat Indar. He has some purview over the maritime sector, and that is one of the major reasons that we're calling for both of them to go. That is a major reason. Thank you very much. This is one.
Well, Guyanese, we are here today protesting and calling for Edghill and Indar to go. Both ministers have failed all of Guyana. To this date, we recognize that the government, they have not yet said in any way that they have any interest in letting go of Edghill nor Indar. And at this point, we know it is because of the negligence of both Edghill and Indar that killed over 100 perhaps Guyanese. We are saying at this time that we will not sit idly back and allow Edghill and Indar to walk into the National Assembly today and operate as though it is business as usual when they are to be held accountable for the hundreds of persons who would have been suffering and hurting and crying and in pain, and by extension the thousands of Guyanese who are mourning alongside them. At this time, we call upon the government to do the right thing and let Edghill and Indar go. It is not too late. If we follow, we would recognize that both Edghill and Indar, they are moving around, operating in the ministries as though it is business as usual. It should not be. I wake every morning at 5:30 to speak to Mr. Audley Harcourt and Mr. Frank, both of West Bobis, who cannot to this day have any word from the government as to where their sons are. I spoke with them this morning, and when I spoke to Mr. Frank this morning, he said to me that nobody gave him any word. Mr. Harcourt was one of the operators on the boat. To date, they have not given them any information as to where their sons are. This government must be held accountable. This government has failed the people of Guyana. Repeatedly, we spoke about poor infrastructure, poor works, poor public service, and this is what the result brought. The boat should have been decommissioned. It should have been out of the waters, and this is time that the government should stand and take the blame. Accept the reality that it is because of your poor management. A boat that should have been off the ocean, 87 years old, was there, and it killed our Guyanese brothers, sisters, and our children. And it is time that the government recognize that the blame must be placed squarely at their feet. And instead of running down the road, they should let Edghill and Indar go. Edghill lied to this nation. Edghill came out the very first thing in the morning to say to this nation that it was just about 116 persons. And when we got the final information, it was far more. Even to today, we still don't know the exact amount of persons that were on the boat. And so this government has failed Guyana. The PDPC government has failed our people, and they must be held accountable. Nothing more, nothing less. Sorry.
Louder.
I'm not sure person spoke to this, but in 2022, a contract was awarded to complete the Port Kaituma Stelling. In 2022, that contract was awarded. The consultant was Semco, and the company to do the work, the contractor, was Joe Jagmohan Company. Can't remember the name of the company. He started the work, and as he was doing the work, the revetment failed because of a faulty design done by Semco. It was corrected, more monies were put into it, and in 2024, the first phase of that Port Kaituma, the first phase of that Port Kaituma Stelling was completed. 2023, the MV Militia came to Guyana, sailed from India. And Edghill said that this boat is to ply the Port Kaituma route. From 2024 to now, there has been no movement by the Ministry of Public Works so that there can be the phase 2 and phase 3 completion so that the MV Militia can traverse that route. So that is clearly incompetence on the part of Edghill. He was not focused on completing the task at hand, which requires that Port Kaituma Stelling completed. Had he completed that Stelling in a timely manner, the boat could have very well been MV Militia heading there as opposed to MV Barima, which was old and outdated. So the time span to complete, and what is hurtful is that up to now, there is no advertisement, there is no tendering process, there is nothing concerning the phase 2 and phase 3 of completing that section. Nobody knows when the Stelling will be completed, when the wharf and Stelling at Port Kaituma will be completed. I want the viewing public to understand something. I remember I've been in politics for over 2 decades now. The former Minister of Public Infrastructure, well at the time Public Works, Robertson Ben used to go to Port Georgetown, the goods wharf, stand up and watch as they load that boat, the very MV Barima. He used to do, Robertson Ben that is, used to do spot checks to ensure that the boat is loaded properly. When the APNU came to government, David Patterson and Annette Ferguson, they employed people to be checkers at these various ports for these ferries. They used to do something like this. When they're telling people, when the Port Georgetown people or Port Parica or Port Bartica people finish loading the boat and giving tickets to each one of the passengers, the checker that David Patterson and Annette Ferguson employed used to go on the boat and verify that everybody here has a ticket, that the load corresponds with what it has to carry. When Edghill them came to power, they fired those people and they said that they were political appointees. And Edghill from then to now has never shown us in the public space that he has done any spot check in terms of how that boat is loaded and in terms of how many passengers can go on the boat. So it is clear that Edghill had no intention of prioritizing the safety of our people through the transportation system by way of this vessel. But transportation in this country is not just concerning this vessel. This is not the only thing that worries me about Edghill and his incompetence. When you look at the minibus, if the passenger for the minibus, the seat capacity is 15, you always see an abuse in terms of putting more people. The fare structure, you see the fare structure, all that Jill will come out and do is give us a paper and say from Breeden Hoop to Parika, $300. If the bus man said 360, Edghill ain't doing nothing about that. There is certain things that Edghill failed with when it comes to the transportation sector of this country. And we have submitted a motion to the National Assembly for there to be a Ministry of Transportation. So you can pull all these departments that are handling transportation in the various ministry into one collective ministry that can address transportation holistically and not singularly at the level of various ministry. Edghill deals with the Transportation and Harbors Department for boats. You got the Guyana Police Force is separate under Home Affairs for certain aspects of transportation. You got Marat falling under public utilities and aviation. The point I'm making, bring all of these transportation departments into one ministry because we're expanding as a country. We are developing at a fast rate. Influx of money, larger road network. We're going to get trains soon. We're going to have flyovers. We will have so many different aspects of transportation that the priority right now is a Ministry of Transportation. But Edghill got to go because he's responsible for the failure of that ministry. Thank you.
So today we're out here. We're calling for the resignation of the Minister of Public Works, Bishop Juan Edghill, and the Minister of Public Utilities, who has responsibility for maritime, Deodat Indar. This is not something new. Leadership must take responsibility. This is not unfair. These people lost their lives in something that could have been avoided. Guyana has enough resources to look after our own people. It is disheartening to see that the poor people are living as second-class citizens in their own country. Their bodies have been floating around in that Atlantic Ocean as though we have no concern for them in life and in death. Accountability starts at the top, and it has been never done before, and Guyana is not the first place for it to be done. And whenever they take praise in their high office, they must also take responsibility in their high offices. And therefore, we call for them to resign and let an impartial investigation be done where persons have no affiliation with Guyana or the government. So therefore, these people can have some sort of justice in their deaths, and the families can find some sort of closure. This is not for anybody else but for those persons who would have lost their lives. And those persons had no choices because of the kind of country they're living in, where opportunities are only given for a selected few. Only the rich get to fly on the plane. The poor cannot afford to do it. So they had to take this as their alternative. So it wasn't that they didn't have any, that they chose this. They had no other option to take it from. And therefore, they must take accountability for their action. Because when the good happens, they take praises for it. So therefore, when the bad happens, they have to take responsibility. And they have to step down and allow their officers to investigate impartially. These people have to have some sort of closure. Had it been a different situation where their family would have been in this situation, they would have upturned every stone. They would have searched every ocean for their loved ones. And therefore, they should be given that same privilege to the poor people of this country. Edghill must go.
18th of July 2026, reminiscent 18th of July 2012 of just a PPP government through negligence of how we treat the average Guyanese in this country. We are out there to call for the most basic that is necessary in this crisis, which is accountability to ask for the minister to go so that we can have an impartial investigation, to ask for the minister who misled this country and remained defiant in misleading this country until corrected by the survivors who told us the harrowing stories of just how it was to travel first on an almost 90-year-old vessel, and then the conditions under which that vessel traveled, very stuck, very unseaworthy, and at the same time overloaded by the own analysis and assessment of those who traveled. What did the minister say to us? He said it was seaworthy. He said it wasn't overloaded. He gave us numbers that were inaccurate. And now we find that we cannot account for many Guyanese who we may never be able to account for them because of this sort of negligence. So we must remember, negligence is a crime. And what this government is saying before us, that what we saw, that what we did not see with our eyes was not a crime. We saw a crime committed against the Guyanese people, more so our Amerindian brothers and sisters, more so our children, who by their sheer numbers should move this country to some level of conscious understanding. How much more do we need to see? More than 100? More than 1,000 before we pause to recognize not only negligence, but what corruption and mismanagement have brought upon this nation by a government who have been given massive amount of resources, but instead reward the people with what we see those persons were subjected to. A 90-year-old vessel. My biggest concern, coming from Linden, 18th July, we are accustomed to commission of inquiry. They gave us, Ramatar unilaterally gave us a commission. And what that commission found, it did not hold the government culpable. It said that they were guilty, they paid compensation. Madia said they were guilty, they paid compensation. But a unilateral commission have now brought us to a point where we have to question this government's approach to such a crime that we saw in the sheer negligence of where we cannot account for more than 100 Guyanese. Guyanese must move to some level of protest. Beyond calling, we must move to action.
So we've just protested outside of Parliament as showing unity between all of not only the parliamentary parties, but we were joined out there by VPAC and the AFC. So we're all now going to head into Parliament. I don't want to say too much, but the Guyanese people can expect that we'll continue to fight, continue to protest, and continue to represent them, both in and out of Parliament. But let's keep it quiet, the rest quiet for now.
Good afternoon. First of all, let me say that I'm very happy. I'm happy that as a parliamentary grouping, we've been able to do this together as a team. But make no mistakes. Look, make no mistakes. Make no mistake. We're not by any chance giving up on our call for the minister to resign. I think the minister has ultimate responsibility for his department. The Transport and Harbour Department comes under him, and every decision that is taken by the Transport and Harbour Department, by omission or whatever, it comes under the minister, and he must be held accountable for it. You cannot tell us that we're spending billions of dollars to buy a boat that is supposed to replace the MV Barima. You stood in Parliament boastfully to announce that it's going to arrive in Guyana and it's going to replace the MV Barima. And yet, we don't have that replacement. 3 years after, we don't have that replacement. If that is not incompetence, I don't know what else is. You know, and it's amazing that the minister stood there and said to us that the militia is supposed to replace the MV Barima. Yet, We're at 2026, 3 years after, and they're putting out a tender document for $125 million to do renovations on the very boat that they say is supposed to be replaced. They've already acknowledged 3 years ago that this boat is not worthy to touch the sea. Yet still 3 years after, we're trying to repair the same boat when we already bought a boat to replace that. Tell me, is it unreasonable for us to call for resignation? It's not.